Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to a conversation with Floyd Marshall Jr. podcast, and I'm your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And today I am joined by the father and son duo, Nazir and Hershey Austin of NKC Creations. These two phenomenal brothers, father and son duo, have created some of the best documentaries and films in the independent scene that you could. I, their stuff is just it's on point, and the thing that I like about it the most is it's thought provoking. It makes you want to sit down, and it definitely makes you want to have a conversation because they delve into some pretty hard hitting matters as far as gun violence, race, things of that nature. So today we're going to talk to them to see, what that process is like, how they've come up with some of their concepts, and we're just going to get a, kind of little in-depth look into how this father and son duo got their start. So Nazir and Hershey, welcome to a conversation with. How are you gentlemen doing?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to be here, Mr. Marshall. As normal, I'm always happy to see you because we've been working so hard. So to have the opportunity to see you on a platform other than at a film festival, so we're delighted to be in your company this evening.
Who's Mr. Marshall? Is that that my dad? You like Mr. Marshall?
I'm Floyd. I'm Floyd.
Here we go. Like Mr. Marshall is my father.
Right. Okay. All right, Floyd.
but I will take it. So how you young brothers doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Just happy to be here. I've been watching the platform grow. I remember you started probably it was like 2-3 years ago now.
Yes, right after everything shut down.
Oh, yeah,
is basically when I started. In a little backstory with that. When I initially started this, it wasn't supposed to be a podcast. It was supposed to actually be in-person live interviews.
Right.
And I had everything set up and I had my guests, and then they shut everything down. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, so now what? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with these people? And I said, well, you got a computer. Talk to them on your computer. And here we are.
Right.
Here we are. So, the pivot. And we're going to talk about that, because you two are phenomenal at making nice pivots. And, I want to get your intake for, people coming in the business on, some of the ways that you can do that if you happen to hit a wall in a production, how to pivot. So, a question that I always ask all of my guests is, how did you guys get started in the business? And Nazir, you can go first if you don't mind.
Yeah, so me personally, I did like a lot of like YouTube when I was younger, probably like 10 years old, playing around with the camera. My mom had got a BlackBerry. It's probably like one of the first smartphones at the time that had the camera. So I would just play around with her camera, and then eventually my dad had got me a little handy cam, and I was recording vlogs, making videos how to hide your money, how to make money in school, whatever. I always had a camera in my hands. So then I got to high school, and then we had ran into an issue when I was in the hospital dealing with sickle cell crisis. And after that hospital visit, we was like, man, like we can't be the only ones going through this. And we never really seen a documentary or a film that kind of showcases what the patient goes through with sickle cell, not just the patient, but the community as a whole. And that's when we said, all right, we need to make a documentary about this. And that was the first film that I ever directed. And I just took whatever I learned on YouTube. And at the time I was in high school, so I just so happened to be in TV broadcast my first year. So, but most of it was just my knowledge that I had from editing videos, and made a documentary, and it was award winning at the time. This is 2016, 2017. And yeah, that was my leap into like the film industry right there.
Ben Hershey, what about yourself?
Well, just to piggyback on what he was just saying, like I pretty much started off as just a supportive dad. You know, like you said, I bought him his first camera, and true story, we actually were discharged from Children's Hospital, and this was like about 3:30 in the morning. We were actually stranded, and the day before, I blew the engine in my truck. I didn't have a car. So I had to call a friend to get us home, but I was thinking, I said, look, we have to let the world know about what you go through, not only as an individual living with the disease, but how it affects the family. So the next day, I actually purchased, it took $35, and I purchased about 200 tickets from Jerry's Corner. And I said, we're going to have a fundraiser, and we're going to do a film about sickle cell anemia. And that's exactly what I did. I had a fundraiser. I'm a member of the Shrine organization. And I had a fundraiser at the place called The Well, which is on 15th and Girard, and we raised about $8,000 at this fundraiser. And then from there, I looked at him. I said, "Look, we have the money. Here, order what you need to have. We're going to do this film." And that was the beginning. I mean, I pretty much was like the executive producer. Really didn't get into like think that I can actually do a film or direct a film. But just being supportive and just being on set and just, you know, being involved in the film industry, I learned so much. You know, that's what kind of brought me forward to doing the film and directing an award-winning film myself. So I knew nothing about film, nothing at all. He taught me.
Okay, because I was about to ask you.
So he taught me. I knew nothing at all about filmmaking at all. I'm a musician. I play the saxophone. I knew nothing about filming though. So everything that I learned about film, I learned from Nazir. And also a very good friend of mine, Mr. Delmar Washington, who was his mentor, a big help, which just being around them, I learned, you know. So I was in class along with them on the sidelines, learning.
Wow.
I knew nothing about film.
Wow. So that's very interesting. So Nazir, let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
So you were learning a lot of stuff on YouTube. Now, as far now, you said you did TV production. Now, was that something that you took in school?
So I went to this brand new high school. I'm the first graduating class for the high school. So my first year, 9th grade, I was in digital design. And then towards the latter half of that year, it was like, hey, yeah, we're introducing TV broadcast for anybody wants to sign up. So I had signed up for TV broadcast. Now, they had just started us out at the time. They didn't have all the equipment exactly. So we were just shooting on iPads and just learning, you know, composition, rule of thirds, things like that. And just learning how to shoot on an iPad. And then our 10th grade year, they finally got some like cameras, and we was able to make short films in school. But I learned from YouTube, being self-taught. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of how to make a short film or how to make a movie content. There's plenty of it now, but during this time, it wasn't that much when I was being self-taught. But that mixed with the I guess the formal education in high school, it helped out with that first film for sure.
Oh, wow. So you take everything that you've learned on YouTube, which you've learned in school, you teach your dad, you guys. Now I got to ask you, because you said Jerry's Corner. What kind of tickets did you buy from Jerry's Corner?
Well, I have a good friend who he makes a lot of t-shirts, but he also prints tickets on the side. And just to add to that story, like I said, you're from Philadelphia. Jerry's Corner is not the easiest way to navigate to get to. Mm-hmm. So not only did I purchase 200 tickets for $35, I actually walked there because I was that determined to have this fundraiser. I actually walked there from South Philly to get these tickets. So our mantra, I always say it's a sad thing that has sight but no vision. So our mantra is $35 in the vision, because that's what it really took to really get the ball started with this company, just to move forward, you know, and create great content.
Okay, so what you bought from Jerry's Corner was G-rated, because Jerry's Corner was, you know, if you're not familiar with Jerry's Corner, if you're not from Philadelphia, Jerry's Corner was basically an adult themed establishment. So when you said Jerry's Corner, I was saying, okay, so what did you?
Well, now they have a bunch of little, it's like kind of set up like the Black Wall Street Mall that's in Atlanta, Georgia. So they have a bunch of little areas where you can purchase, you know, radio equipment, TV equipment, clothing, so on and so forth. So they restructured on the inside. So it's totally different than where it was years ago. Oh, everybody has their own little small businesses up underneath the umbrella of Jerry's Corner in this one building. So one guy in there, he makes T-shirts, he prints tickets. So that's where I went, and I asked him how much it would take, help design the tickets, and I purchased $200. 200 tickets for $35, and that was kind of sort of the beginning.
Okay, so what did you guys? What was the theme of the fundraiser? Because raising $8,000 is no small feat. So what did you guys? The theme was sickle cell awareness. How did you guys set that up?
Well, first thing, I'm a pretty good cook, so we was able to offset a lot of our costs because I did all the cooking.
Okay.
I must have made like well over 150 pounds of food for this fundraiser, and the bottom line was the tickets were $10, right, to purchase, but you can make a donation. So not only did we make money, and you were able to get as much food as you like. We didn't have a limit on it.
Okay.
So, and we sold the $10 tickets. They can get all the food they wanted, but they still had the option to make a donation. So many people knew about this film that we were trying to launch. And plus, prior to that, we had went on Channel 10 to actually kind of talk about it. We did a couple of interviews leading up to that. So, once you put a film project out in the air, you can pretty much have to follow through with it. And we pretty much have been stood by our, whatever film that we said we were going to do. We've never put out there a film that we said we were going to do, we didn't complete. And so we've done, 5 or 6 films? Five films now since we started. A whole bunch of other videography work, but 5 films, and all of them have been award winners. But, we've always completed from the conception to completion straight through. We follow through with all our films.
That's beautiful. So the film regarding sickle cell. So you make this at age 16.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you interview other people with sickle cell, and basically how did that work?
So I think the only other person that actually had sickle cell in the film was Damien Jackson, and he's a lawyer
from Philadelphia.
Yeah, from Philadelphia. But the rest of the people that we interviewed were people from the Sickle Cell Association, Delaware Valley. Right? Yeah.
Mr. Stanley Simpkins
and Zamoria Brandon, and then also I had some help with some of my classmates. They helped shoot the sickle cell walk, and then what else? I actually interviewed a couple classmates as well, just to see like general knowledge. Did some public interviews. Went down City Hall, asked them, hey, what do you know about sickle cell? And a lot of times people say, hey, I don't really know much about it. I've heard about it. So then they try to explain what it is, and they probably be far left, or it may be like, kind of on the nose, but not really. And then we followed up with a question, said, oh, well, what do you think that people can do to help raise awareness to sickle cell? And, a lot of the answers was maybe, shed more light on it, like how they do with cancer. But, at the end of the day, it comes down to funding. But yeah.
Well, we did get a lot of help as far as, getting the word out there. A good friend of mine, Mr. George Blackman, he was very instrumental to help us with the marketing part of it, to getting this out there. And, he just wanted to see us really do well, and so many people wanted to see us win and get this film done, especially because if you look at it, Nasir is the only one to ever direct, edit, and produce a film about sickle cell as told by him. Normally, you'll see a documentary and someone's interviewing someone else with the disease, but Nasir actually directed, edited, and produced it as told by him. No one has ever done that who actually lives with the disease.
So that's pretty personal. Did that take a toll on you, having to actually make such a personal film about yourself? Because you're very open about having sickle cell.
Yeah.
You're very open about it. You don't shy away from talking about it. So, and especially being someone that's so young, did that take a toll on you? But more importantly, Hersey, did that take a toll on you and your wife?
No, I'm not married.
Oh,
no.
You're not?
No, I'm not married. I've never been married. Basically, while we were filming, in a sense, I said, well, I hope he stays healthy. But in a sense, I kind of wanted him to make the film authentic. Like if he had a crisis, be able to capture that. And it actually happened. He actually had a crisis while we were filming. So we were able to get him in crisis on the film. And also some of the obstacles that you actually deal with when having a child with sickle cell, like far as getting their medication. So that was an incident when I was at the pharmacy. And I just remember, I still didn't have a car. So I called a good friend of mine, Mr. Kyle McKell, could he run me to the pharmacy, which he did. And while I was at the pharmacy, they was giving me a hard time getting his medication. But I always told Mr. McKell, if you ever see something that's worth filming, turn your phone sideways. So he actually was there and he filmed it. So that was like the money shot, like what you go through when you're trying to get medication, because they look at those patients with sickle cell as drug seekers. So looking at him and, the drugs that he take, like oxycodone, Toradol, things of that nature, these are, they can lethal drugs. Mm-hmm. So they was giving me a tough time because the doctor didn't put the DEA number on the actual prescription. Mm-hmm. She was giving me a tough time. He had just got discharged from the hospital. If he didn't get this medication, so there's a chance he may have to go right back. Okay. So he was able to capture me going back and forth with the pharmacist. So that was like the money shot that you actually deal with every time that he goes to the hospital, gets discharged, and we have to get his medication for his crises.
Wow. So you're trying to get the medication for your son. You're in a pharmacy. The pharmacist is thinking, okay, well, this dude's not really in here to get the medication for his son, because that those are some pretty strong drugs that you were trying to get for Nazir. And I guess if you look at it from the pharmacist standpoint, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's trying to do. He could be trying to, sell this stuff out on the street. But it's amazing that you were able to get those shots. And oftentimes when you're filming, it's that shot you're not looking for. That's the award-winning shot.
And that's why I said that was the money shot. And I didn't know that the whole time I was having this verbal judo situation with the pharmacist, because I said to her, well, I'm not a doctor. How would I know anything about a DEA number?
Right.
And that was my response back to her. So she did what she had to do. So eventually we did get his medication. But thank God that, maybe a month or so before, I said, look, if we're ever out while we're filming and you see something's worth filming, and he was on point. And that was the money shot. So we was able to include that footage in the film.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's fast forward a little bit. So Nazir, you're an award-winning filmmaker, and you've won some pretty major awards as a young filmmaker, the Young Genesis Award, the Young Genius Award, excuse me, and from the University of Pennsylvania. And you've also won the Coretta Scott King Angel Award. Can you talk about those two, and how did that happen?
Yeah, so this is kind of a while back now, but
I'll do my research.
The Young Genius Award was presented to me by Dr. Maurice Henderson, a well-known playwright. And he also was working for the University of Pennsylvania during the time. And then also the Coretta Scott King Award. I'm not.
Well, the Coretta Scott King Angel Award, which he was a recipient of, not only him, but also the young man Bobby Hunter, who actually sung to the Pope. Mm-hmm. Nazir had to present it to him the next year, and that's how it worked. So the previous winner had to present it to Nazir, and Nazir had to present it to Bobby Hunter. So basically, a good friend of mine had called me and said, look, I think Nazir would be a good candidate for this award. So I actually submitted his name, and he actually won the Coretta Scott King Angel Award. And that's how, he pretty much received that award, the Coretta Scott King Angel Award, which is a big award because it's done every year. They have it really at a very nice place at the Flowertown Country Club. Yeah. It's a very nice affair. And the trophy is very, very nice that they gave him. It was a very, very nice award that they gave him. Black top here.
Very good.
So what's the criteria for winning that award? What goes into the selection process?
From my understanding, it's youth, adolescents who are, for lack of better, words, moving and shaking and doing something,
right,
themselves, or impacting the world in a positive way, essentially. So that's what it was.
Okay. So now the two of you are a pretty dynamic team, and it's something that you really don't see that often, especially with us. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just is what it is in this business. You really don't see too many African-American father and son teams doing what the two of you do. And especially, some of the films that you guys have made that tackle serious issues. Yeah. Now, your documentary Awaken touched on gun violence in Philadelphia. That was good. I saw that. What made you guys want to make a documentary like that?
Yeah, as you started out.
Well, basically, another good friend of mine, Mr. Lance Lee, during the time, he was the executive director at the oldest African American Y in the country, which is on 17th and Christian Street. And he had mentioned to me, he knew about my son and I doing films, but he had mentioned to me that the Y had a $10,000 grant that was, set aside for the kids that were members of the YMCA.
Mm-hmm.
So I pitched it to him. I said, why not do a film about gun violence? Because the prevalence of gun violence was so high at this time. I said, why not come up and we do a film project and let the kids do the interviews, because that was a big part of the grant. The kids had to play a big part in the project. So basically, I was able to gather the talent. I had Councilman Kenyatta Johnson in it. State Representative Jordan Harris is in the film. My childhood best friend, who's a captain in the film, the #1 homicide detective in the country, and various other people. The director from NOMO was actually in the film. And pretty much I constructed the questions, but I allowed the kids to do all the interviews in the film to discuss a real open forum about how gun violence really affected them, not only them personally, but in their communities. And that's how, we were able to, negotiate a deal for us to do the production. And still they had some money left over from the grant, because they actually went to Harrisburg and was presented an award for that film, Awaken. Not only was the film an award-winning film, that film won the Juris Panel Award. It was voted the best film in the whole festival.
Mm. So you guys, this is amazing. And we're going to talk about that. But there's certain things I want to touch on before we get to how you become an award-winning documentarian, because that's pretty difficult. The fact that it being real footage, how do you put that together in such a way that the story is compelling and it makes someone want to sit there and watch a documentary, because that's a little different from watching a regular film. But I want to touch on in NKA Creations. It's going into its 12th year, because you started it.
It's 2015 we started, so we're just actually approaching 10th.
10?
Yeah,
okay, maybe I read that wrong. But that's still phenomenal for a film company, having started out with one of the partners having had no film experience at all. Right. So where do you guys see this production company going?
Yeah, so right now we're a full service production company. So at the moment we are writing scripts in the background as far as the creative side, but we also need to make money to fund the creative films, because the creative films typically we got to finance ourselves. So at the moment we're locking in corporate contracts with different companies throughout the Philadelphia tri-state area, and then we'll just use the proceeds from that and fund the next film. So that's essentially like our flow of things.
Well, by trade, I'm a salesman, so I'm always, I know a lot of people, so I'm always engaged in those. And actually, with my company that I currently work for, which is the National Centers for Urban Solutions, which is it was voted one of the top 50 fastest growing African American companies in the country, I was able to secure a deal with them to allow us to film one of their major events. It's called Real Men, Real Talk, which is going to be coming up on September 28th at Temple. So we're actually, we actually was able to secure to allow us to film the highlights from this event. So try to move towards a more corporate structure. We've done small videos for small companies like Oak Street Health. We've done promotional videos for them. So like you said, we need to have other forms of income to help support our creative side in our film production company.
Okay. So let's talk about a documentary that you guys did that was powerful. And something that definitely needs to be seen by everyone, District Greenwood. What was the driving force behind you saying, you know what, that's a film that I want to do? And how difficult was it to actually, because again, that's another one of you guys' films that I saw, documentaries that I saw. And the subject matter, Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's not an easy subject matter for us to listen to. So how difficult was it actually having to go to the actual location and listen to some of the stories surrounding such a powerful documentary?
Well, basically, just started off initially. Najee was going to direct this film project, but I had such a passion for this project, and I wanted it to be told. I'm a history buff, so I'm like, I love history. I love history. I know a lot about the story. I went to one of the third oldest African American high school in the country. I actually went to high school with Wesley Snipes. We went to the same high school.
Okay.
So I didn't know about this story, and I felt like this story needed to be told. I never knew about the Tulsa, and I went to one of the oldest schools in the United States. So I said, you know what? I have to figure out some way. I learned so much from being around Nasir, and I pretty much took a college approach, and I just started to do research on the subject matter. And then from there, I did the research, and I actually wrote the narration for the film. I didn't record it because I didn't sound good recording it, but I had a passion for it. And one thing that I realized, I knew that I had to make a smart film. And once I figured out how to make a smart film, not to focus on what happened, but why it happened, why they were so successful, why they was able to keep that Black dollar in the community for up to, 30 days before it left, why they wanted to burn it down, and fuse the two together to show, we have to show, because what happened, history leaves footprints, and success is success. So once I recognized how, of course, I had to tell the story from, a historical standpoint, but I had to show how important it is for us to get back to owning and controlling our Black dollars. Once I figured it out, it was smooth sailing.
So
I wanted to make a smart film. I didn't want to make an angry film. From doing my research, most of the documentaries that I saw were, they had you angry. I kind of touch a nerve in this film, but at the end of the film, as you said, you saw the film, you feel inspired. You feel inspired to start a business, and that was my end goal.
Yeah, and it was very good. And I ain't gonna lie, I was mad. I was sitting in the theater like, you know what, this because and I watched the trailer last night, and I got mad all over again. Because I was listening to one of the gentlemen that was being interviewed, and he talked about the fact that you had only 10,000 people in this town. Okay. And it was a very successful and thriving town within the state of Oklahoma.
Right.
And the fact that it was the only town that was making money.
They had 600 businesses with 10,000 people in this one town. And one evening, May 31st, June 1st, was gone. Washed away one night.
Yeah,
the whole town was gone.
And that just amazes me that we were thriving in that era, in that year, surrounded by such hostility, and then the fact that it was all burned down, and then the fact that they don't even want to tell you about that.
Yeah.
But the question that I have for you with that, because you said you wanted to make a smart film, can you explain a little bit more what you mean by that? Because there may be a filmmaker watching this, or will be watching this in the future.
Well,
and that kind of, it's like, well, what does he mean by a smart film?
Well, I didn't just wanted it to be an informative film. I wanted to show. I always say that a suggestion without a solution is just another problem. So I wanted this film to be smart. When those who had the opportunity to watch the film, and we passed the kind of litmus test when we showed it at engineering and science, once we were invited and they had to pre-screen it and say, look, this is something that our students need to see, I knew I did what I had to do. And not only that, when I'm around those that don't look like me, Caucasians or Latinos, and they see the film and they love the film, that let me know that I did what I had to do. Because I'm able to cover every area, especially in any situation, any ethnic background. If this were to happen to the Latinos, they would want to have somebody and display that story. And that's why I mean by smart film, because everybody can get it. It's not just because this affected us. Any nationality can look at this film and say this was a messed up situation. Yeah. And also they can also see how important it is to own and control your dollars, and learning the whole process of how keeping your money in your community. That's one of the only ways you can obtain generational wealth. So, and that covers everybody across the board. So that's why, what I mean, a smart film, that's what I mean by being a smart film.
And it's interesting, as you were talking, I think one of the things, well, at that point in time, they weren't even thinking about that. But right now, the people would have watched that film. And the fact that you said smart film, money is green.
Yeah.
And money makes money. So regardless of the community that money is coming out of, if I'm making money and then you come and you do business with me and we partner up,
We make the money.
Now we making money.
Right.
And unfortunately, the only thing that those racists saw was the fact that Black people were making money.
Yeah.
They didn't see that, you know what? How are they making money? Can we go to them and learn from them and then take what they're doing and go make our own money? But all they saw was they're making it. We're not. We're going to burn it down.
Yeah.
Not only were they making money, they actually borrowed from the Black banks.
Wow.
On the Tulsa side. So, they knew about Tulsa. They knew how successful it was when O.W. Gurley went to the town and he purchased 40 acres just for African Americans, invited people from all over the country. Come to Tulsa. And you got to think about, prior to that, we had the situation when Oklahoma was a territory. Okay. It wasn't even a state yet. Many of you may have heard about the Trail of Tears. That was an Indian territory. When they marched the 5 quote unquote civilized tribes, if you ever hear that term civilized, these were the tribes that gave up no resistance. When they went through that land and said, look, we need you to move. We don't care how you get there. We're going to walk you there. But there were other tribes they considered that weren't civilized because they fought back. The Chickasaw, the Seminole Indians, which ties into a whole nother story with Chief Osceola in Florida and John Horse. But, it started off the Indian territory. And you have to realize during that period, there were Native Americans that also had Black slaves as well. So they took those slaves to them to Oklahoma as well, and that's pretty much how it got started. And then there were a few people that migrated there that became rich from because they found oil. So there were some African Americans that were big oil moguls in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But like they said, in most towns, if they say, well, you want to know where the Black people live at, go to the railroad tracks. So the Blacks lived on the north side of Tulsa and the whites lived on the south side of Tulsa. And that's when O.W. Gurley realized that, say, look, I'm going to purchase 40 acres for my people, and I'm going to invite them to come here, and we're going to start our own businesses here, and we're going to keep our dollar in the Black community as long as we can before we do business with other people. And that's pretty much how the town got started for the most part.
So what would the two of you, as far as, let's say, for instance, you have some filmmakers wanting to get into this, but specifically,
right?
They're saying to themselves, I like making documentaries. What would be some of the things that you would tell them would be the way to go?
I would say if there's a filmmaker that wants to make a documentary and, they like making documentaries, I would tell them to tell the story that goes untold, or the story that's, doesn't necessarily have the brightest light shed on it. That's what I would say, because that's what kind of makes the story unique. And that's what makes the documentary, special, is because you may have never heard about it, or you can tell the story in a different perspective that nobody else thought about. And that's kind of our approach with the District Greenwood project, was that, we wanted to focus on more so like the finances, the economic piece about it. And so we took a more analytical approach towards the documentary versus, like he said earlier, what happened, but more so why, they were so successful. So then that's why we brought in a whole bunch of professionals and today's leading entrepreneurs in America. We have Mark Lamont Hill, and then we have David Shands, Terry Corbett, Melinda Emerson. We have so many different entrepreneurs from across the country.
Dr. Wayne Williams, from lead professor at Temple University. Because when I talked to the talent and we was getting the talent together for the film, I wanted to have people that use that same philosophy that they used in 1921 to develop their own brand, and that understood that there were lessons to be learned from this incident that happened. Because like I said, tragedy sometimes leaves footprints to success. And all the 6 or 7 people that I had interviewed, because it took me 5 years to get this film done. And I almost didn't complete the film, and that's where we talk about pivoting, because what happened based on Facebook's algorithms, they wouldn't allow us to share our fundraising campaigns. And we've done fundraising campaigns. We did Seed and Spark before. We did Indiegogo before. But when it came for District Greenwood, they wouldn't allow us to share the film to raise money.
Mm.
So like we could make the post and like we'll share it, but essentially the post kind of like got blacklisted. Like it would get literally no engagement.
No engagement.
Like anything within the caption said District Greenwood or
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street. It's just like it got literally no engagement. And then even when I tagged our friends or in family,
Thousands of friends, no one said, "Oh, I didn't get anything."
yeah.
Mm.
So then it was like, okay, so I guess we gotta go guerrilla about this and do some guerrilla marketing, and we still want to shoot the film. Like the conception of the film started immediately after the sickle cell film. So we did a couple projects in between them, but it took some time just to try to get the funds and then do research and development to even get to the film completed. So that's why it took so long. So also, like you asked, just to add on to the question you asked me earlier, with documentaries, don't expect it to take 6 months or a year. Like sometimes your documentary may take years to complete because you may have a direction on where you want to go with it, but you never really know where the story ends up going. You may have an overarching theme that you want to get across, but you never really know where the story will go with. So,
and it's funny, like during the production, I kept hearing that Westbrook, the NBA player, was doing a film and a documentary as well.
Towards the latter half.
Towards the latter half, but you look, he has more money than us. And the funny thing is, I had a goal that I wanted to release the film on the 100th anniversary, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
On the 100th anniversary, when you came to the screening, that was the 100th anniversary of the bombing. And the funny thing, one of the talent that was in my film was also in his film as well. And people have told me that they watched my film and they watched his film. They said my film was far better because the thing about it, I saw his film as well. He used a lot of B-roll footage, which is good. Mm-hmm. However, it took me 5 years. I went on location. I went to Atlanta. I went to New York. I went to Edgewater, New Jersey. Had some people that I interviewed here in Philadelphia. And of course, Tulsa was the major part. And that was, I said, once I was able to come up with the funding to take a film crew to Tulsa and actually go to where I couldn't say I'm going to do a film about the Black Wall Street and never go to Tulsa.
Right.
So that's why you saw in the film, I went to some of the major key like Standpipe Hill, Frisco Railroad tracks where the riots began, talked to some people that, and family members that had relatives and that were directly linked and knew and were very young when the incident actually happened. And I think that's kind of helped solidify the project by being able to come up with the funding. And we had to pivot, like you had to pivot, during COVID. Because during COVID, that kind of forced me to go hard in the paint to do my research. Mm-hmm. And then my time on my hands, to figure it out. So I did some serious research. I read several books on the subject matter. And, once things died down, just when we was able to travel a little bit, we was able to travel to Atlanta to film David Shands. And then when it really died down, I said, look, we got a window period. We can go shoot. We had the talent set up. We saw this one project called District Greenwood, but I was able to go interview one of the CEOs of the largest black. I think it's called Greenwood. It's called Greenwood, one of the largest black CEO firms, which is owned by a black female in Tulsa. I saw on the show, so I reached out to one of my producers. I said, can you please give me an interview with her? And we kept going back and forth. We sent her the trailer, and she said, I'm in. So that was one of the main reasons. She was like one of the main challenges for me to even get to Tulsa. And from there, we never looked back.
Yeah.
So I want to go back for a second because you mentioned Mr. Westbrook. No shade against this documentary, but you said he used a lot of B-roll footage, whereas you basically put boots on the ground. And I want anyone deciding to do this to really understand the difference in how getting actual, and it's nothing wrong with archival footage because you need that for historic references. But the way that you did yours, I can't talk about Mr. Westbrook's documentary because I didn't see it, but the way that you did yours made it really personal. So if you're talking to a filmmaker, again, deciding documentaries is the way I want to go, what are the pros and cons, if there are any cons, to doing it the way you did it, as opposed to saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to go the other route and do the footage? Or do you just do the best you can with what you have?
Well, as I was told, and as it was communicated to me by a very good friend and brother, Mr. Delmar Washington, your first project should be something that's very close to you. That'll be the very easiest project to do. And I think that the more that you personalize your project, the better people will be able to, receive your project. Like I said, I like to do thought-provoking films. After you leave our films, I want you to think about something. Sometimes, I mean, you may want to change some things in your life based on, some of the things that we actually displayed, especially this film. I know so many people that actually have called me and said, "Thank you, Hirsch, man. Like, I had this idea about starting a business. I just didn't know how to get started. Just do it." And they started it. So, and that was my main goal, just to change the mindset, because if you can change the mindset, you can change the behaviors. And that was one of the main things that I wanted to accomplish with this film project. But do a project that's close to you first, just to get a feel for it and see if this the documentary category is something that you want to get into. But like you said, by me reaching out and doing the extra work and securing the talent personally, I think that really helped my film come off a little bit different than Westbrook. Of course, like you said, you need the archival footage to really tell the narrative and the history. But if you really want to slam dunk it, I think you need to reach out. You need to go to these places. You need to talk to these people to get a real good feeling about what they experienced and how it affected the families generationally. So I thought that was very important. That I thought would separate me. We didn't have the money that Westbrook did, but my vision, I think, was a little bit stronger than his.
And sometimes it ain't about having the money,
right?
Because and let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
With that, and Mr. Westbrook, if you're listening, we are definitely not throwing shade against you, sir.
No question.
We
Great
are
film,
definitely
right.
not. But sometimes it's not about the money, but it's more about the relationships that you're building with people.
Mhm.
Where someone who's the CEO of one of the top Black companies in the country can say, "Hey, you know what? Come on down," because a relationship was established,
Yeah.
and everything. So talk about that. Sometimes, because again, someone may be getting discouraged because they're saying, "Hey, you know what? This is something that I want to do, but I'm running into some issues." So can you guys talk about the relationships that you built and established while creating District Greenwood and your other films, to where you could actually tap real people and to get what you got from them? So can you guys talk about that?
Yeah. So one of my favorite lines I always say is, filmmaking is the most collaborative art form there is. There's no other art form more collaborative than filmmaking. And throughout my journey, I've met hundreds of people, from the indie level to the celebrity A-list level, and with each level, there's a new challenge, and with each new challenge, you need to figure out that problem. And oftentimes, the answer to the problem is not how, but who. So who do you need to help you figure out this particular problem? And that's what has been very beneficial throughout the journey, is that I've made several relationships with people from the first project and all the way up until now, bringing in our DP for the project, Taj Devore. And now Taj, that was like one of the earlier projects that he kind of worked on, but now Taj doing stuff for like Vice and HBO and stuff like that now, and he has a film about to go on Netflix now. It's just having an opportunity to essentially.
Sorry.
See that if he was in the audition, ladies and gentlemen, if he was in the audition, the casting director would have put him out, because you're supposed to cut your phone off during the audition. But continue, Mr. Nasir Austin.
Yeah, so essentially,
my apologies.
That's okay.
I swear I had it off.
We live.
essentially, the relationships that we had, basically, it works both ways. They'll help you, you help them. And a lot of times it wasn't even necessarily the money that was a factor, because we sure didn't have a lot of it. So it was more so about
relationship.
Does that person like you? That's like the big thing. If they don't like you, they will not work with you. They don't
like or respect your work ethic, because this is a creative art form. And as you know, Floyd, this is a city of not what you know, but who you know, for
Mhm.
one. And I pretty much looked at every project we were able to complete. 20% of our relationships help us complete 80% of our projects
Mm.
for the most part. You know, if you look at it that way. And that's what really boiled down to those relationships that we
Yeah.
both had that wanted us to win.
Mhm.
That's a better way to put it. That wanted to see us win. Like you said, father and son, we try to model ourselves after Mario and Melvin Van Peebles, because other than that, they're the only two father and son filmmakers that I know about.
Mhm.
You know, father and son. So we try to, you know, I've always respected them as filmmakers. So if you're out there listening, you know, you were a great inspiration to us both to get out there and say we can do it. Because I come from a financial background, so did Melvin Van Peebles. I was a loan officer, so with his dad. And then he put his son on. His son had the skill set, and they kind of came together to create great film projects. You know, I just found out, I didn't know that Melvin Van Peebles was the one that had the trademark on the X rating. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yes, he was the one that came out with the X rating, because during that period of time when he was doing films, you couldn't do film to show any form of close-knit sexual activity, because they had PG and whatever. So he had the trademark on the X. That's why you have 2X and 3X films now. But he owns the trademark on the single letter film X.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
That's why I say you got to do your homework, man. You know?
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good look. But you know what? You said something that's interesting. This is a gentleman that I listen to by the name of Travis Chappelle. And he used to have this podcast. Good grief, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but at the end of his podcast, he would always ask his guests one question: who you know or what you know, what's more important?
Mhm.
And he interviewed some major people. And to a person, they would all say, who you know, because the who you know leads to the what you know. Because if you know a certain thing, that's great. But eventually we all hit a ceiling.
Right.
And then we need someone else to teach us something else.
Mhm.
So that's where the who you know is more important than the what you know, because the who you know will always lead to the what you know. And I found that out to be so true.
Mhm.
Because, you know, building relationships, I learned a lot more. But you were about to say?
So I remember I read this quote, and this comes from the Dalai Lama. When you talk about things you know.
Mhm.
But when you're quiet, you learn something new. And that kind of transcends into the people of the who's, because like you said, the who you know is when you're quiet, you're going to learn from them, and you're going to learn. It's going to help you get over those ceilings and those hurdles that you're going to deal with, that you're going to encounter along your journey. The who is very important.
Oh, it's
what?
Yeah, I've learned that lesson the hard way. But it's a good lesson to learn, because it's something you need to know.
Mhm.
So let's talk really quickly about, you know, Black Wall Street and how we as Black content creators can create our own. Because one of the things that I like to talk about when I'm talking to especially Black filmmakers is owning your own IP.
Yeah.
Owning your own product, because that is how you build anything. So can you guys talk about what that means to you, as far as, you know, your own personal Black Wall Street, and owning your IP, and having your own brand, and being known for making such phenomenal work?
Yeah. For me, I always look at content in general, and especially like films, as real estate, you know, because if you look at like the deals is, you know, kind of broken down similar to a real estate deal. And yeah, and even more so for me, I believe that control is more important than ownership, because ownership without control is useless. Right. So luckily for our film, we do have full rights over the film. You know, it's a clean title. Like, you know, it's a clean title. Like I said, similar to real estate.
That was the
it's a clean title.
sacrifice, though, that you have to make sometimes. It's just sacrifice, like, you know, to be able to have that control was so important to us. You know, I didn't want to give anything, because it's such an important film. That was very important to us to have control of a film. And it's funny that We just got through quality control because we was able to go to another level because we had exclusive control to do what we needed to do for our film project.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like ownership is definitely everything, and yeah, we do have control of our project, and right now it's currently on Afroland TV and Quilly TV, and like you said, we just passed quality control, and we had put it on Film Hub. We're going to try to get it on Tubi and possibly Peacock or whoever wants to get pick it up. And Film Hub essentially is an aggregator to get you onto the different streaming platforms. So we just submitted it there, but yeah,
I think somebody will pick it up. I mean, you saw the film.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be picked up. That's not
Right.
and you know what?
We took time with that film. Like I said,
Yeah.
you can't rush a subject matter like this.
Mhm.
That's why I had to be patient with it, and that's why it took me 5 years to get it done.
Yeah.
Some of the best documentaries take between 5 to 10 years to complete, sometimes 20.
Yeah. I want to add something like this little nugget. So with all our films, right, this kind of goes back to like making a smart film. All our films have some type of utility where you can talk about it or have some type of Q&A where a university would be interested in talking on the subject matter and screening the film and talking about what they just watch and how does it, flow within their curriculum. And with our film, Black Wall Street, we're able to talk about history, we're able to talk about finances, we're able to talk about business. So that allows us to have another stream of income with the film. So it's not like we're just depending on the streaming networks to pay us in royalties. We're actually able to capitalize actually a whole lot more by going to a speaking engagement, screening the film at multiple different institutions and universities. So that's another little play that filmmakers can do. If your film has more utility than creativity, you can actually make more money.
So, I mean, last year when we first, right after you saw the film, I went on speaking tour. I just gave it a shot. I've screened the film at Princeton University, University of Penn State University, Cheney University, Engineering and Science. Well received. I'm talking about the presidents of the universities sent me letters saying it was a phenomenal film. And of course, as you know, there's always that honorarium budget that every university has, and they was able to compensate me for being able to show the film and do a Q&A afterwards and really have a really good dialogue, in terms of learning about what happened in Tulsa in 1921.
So you said something that was so profound, Nazir, utility, and having, I'll just say, a different angle on your product where you will make it more, I'll use the word palatable to a wider range of people. So again, a new filmmaker or someone deciding I want to jump into the documentary filmmaking pool, is that something that you would encourage all of them to keep in the forefront of their mind, that when they decide this is what I want to do, to keep that in mind? To you want to target your audience, but you want that target to be as pinpointed but as wide as possible, if that makes sense. So would you encourage filmmakers, when you decide to sit down and do a documentary, make sure that the end vision has more than one destination in mind?
For sure. I would definitely say, filmmaking, if you're self-producing a film, you are also the distribution company too. And what is a distribution company? They're essentially a profound marketing company. That's what that is. Because even like if you did get your film on Film Hub, and you're still responsible for the marketing. So for these past, several years of running a production company, I've learned how to market and, the dynamics of marketing. And I understand how important it is to start with the end in mind. We're making this product, we're making this creation, this piece of content. Where is it going? Who is going to see it? Because if nobody sees it, it's kind of like, what was the point in making it? And as long as somebody hasn't seen the film, it's still a new film. It's a brand new film. Like Disagreement is technically been done for like 2 years, but the majority of the population still has not seen it yet. So it's a brand new film. You got to keep pushing your product, and also, like I said, have the end in mind. So yes, have some type of strategy on where you want the film to go. Where can it be shown at? Who's going to watch this? And who are you actually talking to? It's kind of like when you're writing a script, you need to know who is your audience. Are you writing to teenagers or preteens? Are you talking to middle-aged men? What's the story here? What's the angle? So that's kind of how I would say go about it. Is you got to start with the end in mind. Where is the film going to end up? Because even when it comes to, if you're producing a narrative film, you need to start with the end in mind, because you can lose a lot of money making a film and not having a goal, or where's that film going to end. A lot of times before you even start a narrative film, or when you finish the script, when you finish the script, you want to try to have some type of distribution already secured. So yeah, that's kind of like where I kind of stand on that. So
Damn. You're pretty smart. No, and you know what? I say that because you said something basically verbatim that a friend of mine, Angela White, she owns Silver Lining Productions, and she is a prolific filmmaker. She now when you want to talk about a filmmaker, Angela White is a filmmaker's filmmaker.
Okay.
And I remember years ago going to the Peachtree Film Festival in Atlanta, and she talked about what you just said. The fact that before you even pick up that camera to shoot that film, you better know where it's going. And you better have things lined up. And so often I talk to filmmakers, and one of the questions I ask is, who's it for and where's it going? Oh, I want to make a film for everybody so everybody can see it.
Everybody's not a target market.
Everybody's not a target market.
Do you know how big everybody is?
Right.
Everybody means everybody.
Right.
And I have been in this game for 19 years, and I don't watch everything.
Yeah. And the broader your target is as well, like the harder it is going to try to get people to watch the film. And like, let's just say for advertising, because you have to reach more people. You have a broader audience. So it's like, all right, you got to put more resources into reaching this larger population. But if you can narrow it in, you can save a lot more money. You know exactly where you're going and who you're talking to.
Once you find your lane, you stay in that lane. I think that's very important. And as you know, Floyd, we learned so much. We were all down at the ABFF several years back, and just having the opportunity, by the grace of God and a good friend of ours, Mr. Delmar Washington and Mr. Jeff Friday, to have the opportunity to do productions for him 2 years in a row. We learned so much by being at that festival. And you learn a lot when you go to this festival, and you meet so many people, that engagement.
Yes.
You learn so much, and that was very helpful early on, in our careers, in this filmmaking career. So, we learned so much from there, and we just ran with it.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to travel neither in this industry. Like you gotta really travel to meet people, because where you're from is probably not going to be enough as far as talent and just resources. You need to meet people across the globe. Like I know a few people in South Africa and Nigeria now. And I say in constant.
And
you never know where you might need to make a film, or
help you out with your film project.
Yeah, what talent you may need. So you got to be social. You got to be social in this industry.
We actually had someone from London actually did the special effects in the original song that my first cousin did for me, 35 Blocks. That's my first cousin. He's a signed artist, journalist from Philadelphia. But the special effects we had to send to London to get done. So, we have relationships, like you said, South Africa, London, that, I guess it kind of gave us the edge, even though we didn't have a big budget to put the film. I mean, it was enough, but we had relationships with people around the world that wanted to see us win, to get this project done, to make it look really good, to make it look, make it look really good for the most part, and deliver the message in the way I wanted the message to be delivered.
Yeah. And I've found that to be so true. And with you saying that, it brings to mind, I don't know if you guys know Rachel LaForey.
I'm not familiar.
I've heard of it. I don't
Rachel,
know.
yeah, she did a film called good grief, what was the name of the film? Sorry, Rachel. What Death Leaves Behind. Christopher Mann starred in the film. Yeah, the film was phenomenal. And she had this gentleman do her score. And the score to that film really put it over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell that whoever did it knew what they were doing and knew what they were doing very well. And she talked about at the talkback how expensive he was, and that she didn't think that she would be able to get him. But it's amazing when someone speaks for you, what will happen. And that brings into, the relationship thing, because they were like, yo, she good people. Dude was like, all right, but I'll do it for this amount as opposed to this amount. And that is so important when, you're talking about your film. No, we didn't have a large budget, but when someone speaks for you,
we were blessed. I don't know if you know this. I want to tell this story. To get the film where it's at right now, we were blessed to be invited to Tribeca Film Festival because one of the people that we work with at the ABFF had a film in Tribeca. Delmar had a film in Tribeca. So we go to the festival. I had a shirt that said "Blackness is a Verb" on the front. However, I had the promotional poster for my film on the back. Guess what we run into? Ryan Kruger's entertainment lawyer. He stopped me. He said, "What does that film mean?" And I explained the film. He said, "Do you mind if I take a look at it?" Sure. We emailed him the film the next day. He said, "I love the film. Do you mind if I give you some notes?" We knew we was going to have to do another edit, but he watched the film and gave us notes. That's why we are where we are today. He gave us everything we needed to get the film to take us to the next level. And know what he said? It's such a great film. I want to see you guys win. He did it for free.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just people believing in your vision and believing in the product. If you have a good product, people want to be a part
and they see that you need a little help. And they see, look, y'all work hard. Y'all got as far as y'all could for what y'all was working with, but with a little, wasn't asking for a handout, but just a little hand up. Yeah. And that's what they gave us along the journey, because they see we put skin in the game.
Yeah, we didn't ask. He
said, look, he said, you mind if I give you take notes and give you some notes? We was like, sure. And that's what he did. And listen, we stripped the film down, got rid of the score. Let the film breathe. Just gave us key notes that we needed to do for the film to really make it. I mean, where it's at now on Afroland TV was based on his notes that we followed to the T to help us get to where we are right now.
Yeah. So what you're saying is what I saw.
You ain't seen it? Oh no!
If you haven't seen it since that that private premiere,
it's way better.
It's different. It's tighter.
It's tight.
That premiere was honestly just for our close inner circle, honestly.
Right.
Okay.
Just so we can get a feeling of how people will react to it, and also for us to see it on the big screen, so we can right. So now it's tight.
It's real.
It's real tight.
It's real tight. I mean, it's on Afroland TV. It's free, but you see it now.
And then within probably like the next month or so, God willing, it may be on Tubi, Peacock. Who knows? This depends on how the aggregation goes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, but we took that extra time. We knew it was good, but when he gave us the notes, we knew that's what we needed to make it great.
Beautiful. Yeah, and back relationships is everything. So when it came to the sound design, like I'm not the greatest, person with the sound, and so I hit up homie Christina Faith, and I just had a relationship with her from helping her out on a project a few years ago. What's her project called? So it was a musical, essentially. I can't think. Love You Right. That's what it was. I was a camera op on it. So I just had a relationship with her, and I'm like, yo, like I need a sound mixer because the sound, is not there. She was like, yeah, for sure. You need a 2.0 stereo and you need a 5.1. I didn't even know I needed that. But, she gave me the plug to her sound mixer, Aaron. And, Aaron had did the initial pass, and that's what you had watched. And then, this like a year and a half kind of goes by.
It was right after we got the notes from Ryan Cruz, entertainment lawyer.
And I'm like, yo, we need it to be remixed because the edit. So when you change the edit of a project, you also got to get it remixed. So doing the sound and doing the color is like one of the last steps that you want to do until you got your edit kind of locked. So because we had it mixed originally and then we made changes, I had to get it remixed again. But thankfully, you know, Aaron, he was like, look, man, I got you. I'm gonna redo it. And yeah, shout out to Aaron.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron. Yeah, he blessed us.
Sonic.
Yeah, he blessed us. And he, like I said, he wanted to see us win. Getting back to what you were saying, having those relationships. The who's,
Hey,
not the what's, the who's.
All day long.
All day.
So what's next?
So
go ahead.
So right now I'm kind of pivoting into more so doing some more creative things. Like I said earlier, we are doing the corporate stuff on the side just to generate more money, but I want to knock out 3 short films before the year is out. And also I'm in the process of writing my feature. So I'm doing the short films to warm me up so I can do my first narrative feature. I'm going to try to shoot that end of 2024 or beginning of 2025. But yeah, so that's the next for me personally in my creative journey.
Of course, you know, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be the EP on it. But I actually had a conversation today with Kathy Dance, and we've been working on the script with her for like 3 years called Imagination.
Okay.
Based on a true story. It's had a couple of rewrites, but I spoke to her today. We're still going to move forward with that. I have a passion for it. It's one of those things. If I got a passion for it, I'm going to make it pop. I'm going to make it do what it do. And I have a heart for this passion. I can relate to some of the things in the script. So I spoke to her today. We're still moving forward with that. So we had a couple of things in the making and to help us move forward as a company and as a brand. And I'm just thinking about some projects that I may want to direct again. Now, this is not the end of my directing career, but I think I want to do something else. So, you know, we'll see where it takes us.
Yes,
at this point.
That's nice. Love Kathy. She just texted me like an hour ago because we're all meeting up.
Right. She mentioned to me, she said, you know, Floyd, I told her about the interview. She said, you know, Floyd is on our board. So when you speak to her later on, she'll tell you that she spoke to me earlier today.
Yeah, I love her energy. If you
and she loves ours. Getting back to relationships, she loves our work ethic. She said, you two guys, she said she's been to most of our film projects except for the Black Wall Street, but she saw the film in the past. And she said, you guys, y'all work hard. And it's like, yo, I love the way y'all deliver. When y'all put something out there, y'all finish it. We go from conception to conception, pre-production, production, post-production, just to make sure that we stand on what we said we're going to stand on and we're going to complete what we said we're going to complete.
That is so important. Your word is so important because people, all you have in this business is your word.
Oh, absolutely.
And if your word is no good,
integrity. You have to be impeccable with your word.
And those people that contribute to our projects financially, you know what they say? Why they like it? They said, because I contributed to other film projects. And they always said, well, I couldn't come up with the rest of the money or I couldn't get it mixed down. They said, the reason why we still invest in you, we have people that invest in us, you know, not major lump sums, but every little bit helps. They always say, we don't have a problem investing in you because you always complete the task.
They see the finished product.
Always.
Yeah, the worst thing you could do is take somebody's money and not actually do what you say you was going to do with it.
And don't deliver.
And you don't deliver. There's nothing to show for it.
That's
the worst thing you can do.
And listen, I mean, we're a brand, so I mean, this is my son, so I gotta rock out with him. I cannot put something out there and don't support him and say, look, if I'm doing something, if I'm directing a project, he's gonna make sure I complete it. If he's doing something, say, I don't care how stressed you are, son, you gotta get this project done.
Absolutely.
People are counting on you to finish this project. You know?
Absolutely, because your reputation precedes you.
And we're batting 1,000. We've never put a project out there that we didn't complete. Not one.
That's
Since
right.
we started. Not one.
That's
beautiful. Not one. Once that camera go on, we're in production, it's going to be completed.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that will stand you in good stead as you guys rise, because again, they can always point to the two of you and say, well, what have they done? Well, you can go reference it. But more importantly, again, it goes back to when they say they're going to do something, it gets done. And that is major. When you're talking about
what we say we're going to do.
That's major, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, this is a business. Absolutely. And if someone is writing you a check, I expect to see a product at the end of that.
Right. You're expecting us to deliver. And it's only right. It's only fair. Fair exchange, no robbery.
Absolutely. So where can people find you guys?
Yeah, so you can find us anywhere. NK Creations as far as the company, nkcreations.com, NK Creations on socials. My personal social media is Nazir the Creator, Nazir the Creator. Find him on Instagram at
Hershey Austin.
Google us.
Google us. You can Google us. You see all the work we've done. I mean, I started to realize, like, when I Google myself, I'm like, yo, they have the speaking engagements from Villanova. I forgot about one university. I spoke at Villanova as well.
Oh, nice.
Interviews I've done at Villanova, speaking engagement I've done at Penn State. I'm just like, I'm like, yo, we've really been working over these past years. Like, you can actually Google us now, and we got news articles, films up there. I'm on IMDb. I have 5 films on IMDb. Oh, wow. I covered all 3 categories. I have a director's on IMDb. I have an acting credit on it, and I have executive producer credit on IMDb.
So you're Googleable now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not too hard to find.
Not too hard to find.
Now, here's the thing with that. If there's this thing, both of you, Google yourselves. Mm-hmm. And if you see this thing, it says, I think it's, do you own this information? Mm-hmm. It's a thing called a knowledge bar.
Yeah, I have a knowledge bar. His isn't up there just yet, but I think I have a knowledge bar. The company has a knowledge bar.
Did you claim it?
I claimed the company's. I don't
think I claim your own, bro.
Personally, though.
Yeah, you got to claim your own, bro. Look, when I found, I didn't even know I had one, and then my manager said, you got a knowledge bar. I was like, I got a what? I had no idea what it was, and she was like, oh yeah, because once you claim it, it kind of basically condenses all
the top information
and puts it in one place. So yeah, Hershey, you got to find out if you got a knowledge bar, because if you got a knowledge bar, claim that joint.
Yeah, to get to that point, you gotta increase your digital footprint.
Absolutely.
Once you increase your digital footprint online, then that's when Google will start populate different articles or videos, whatever, and then give you that knowledge bar. You gotta give them a reason.
Like I said, I'm a newbie to this. My first position in this whole company is being a supportive dad first, a creative second. And I always tell him, it's not so much of just him or me just being involved with this film company. I just enjoy the journey, spending time with my son. That's the best part of this whole journey.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, gentlemen, I'm not going to keep you any longer. This has been absolutely amazing.
We thank you
guys. You guys
we appreciate you, man. I hope you enjoyed our interview
too.
Oh, I hope you enjoyed our interview.
This was beautiful, man. We done went over the time. See, that's what happens when you're talking to people you like.
Yeah,
lose track of time, because I'm looking like, oh snap, we don't went over time.
Right, listen, we could have talked by a whole nother hour,
bruh. I had so many more questions. We could be here till like 9 o'clock tonight, but I gotta get ready for the other job. Yeah. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself, Nazir, and Hershey tonight on the conversation with. If you have
we appreciate you all.
Absolutely. But if you have enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Floyd Marshall Jr. channel, and make sure you also subscribe to the podcast on Apple and all other streaming platforms. I'm out there. So, great interview, phenomenal information. Make sure that you listen a few times, because trust me, you're going to catch some things every single time that you listen to this interview. And if you like the interview, please leave a comment. If you didn't like it, leave a comment. I want to know, because I want to bring you more people like Nazir and Hershey, because these are 2 phenomenal brothers, and it's an absolute privilege to call both of them my friend. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'll end this show the way I end all of my shows. Love this like a hobby, but above all else, treat this like a business. And on that note, everyone, have an absolutely phenomenal night. Peace.
Thank you. Peace.
Yes, sir.